All right, well, welcome back. As we approach the bottom of the hour here, I'd like to queue up our next presentation. Next up, we have Trent Casi from Wingtra, which is a UAS company. And Trent will be talking to us today about the future value of the UAS mapping platform for local government. So Trent, I will stop my screen share and you can queue up your material and take it away.
Sounds good, Dr. Steve. Thanks very much for the introduction there. Very excited to be part of the GIS Day for Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County has always been very progressive with GIS technology, so I'm very happy to be here. So I'm going to basically give a crash course in UAS mapping. A lot has changed in the last several years with the UAS. I did a lot of work in local government over my 20-year career. Over the years, and it's been nice to see how the technology has progressed. I even started back in the film days when cameras basically use film and so forth and scan diops and produced your ortho photos. So what I'll quickly do today, just give a very brief background on Wingtra, and then also we're going to talk about the future applications for local government. There are applications that are there today, but due to regulation, they can't really be accessed yet in the United States. So I'll show you some sample data sets as well that were done in Europe over cities. I think you'll be able to connect the dots on for local government. So let me queue up my slide deck here and share my screen. Let's see here, give me 1 minute. All right. And Dr. Steve, just let me know if you don't see my slides here in a second. Okay.
Okay, we see your PowerPoint. Not in presentation
Excellent.
mode, but we see it. Oh, there it is.
Okay, so my title is the Future Value UAS Mapping Platform for Local Government. So I've seen, the work over the years with satellite data to fixed wing manned aircraft, now down to the UAS, even terrestrial scanning as well too. So we're going to talk about some of the applications and how today's UAS technology can relate to the local government person. Quick background on myself. For the last 20 years, I've been working in a variety of verticals, energy, local government, federal government as well too, and also a lot of work with local government over the years with software, hardware, fixed wing drones, and so forth. I am the president of the Rocky Mountain Region ASPRS as well. So those of you who know me, like to talk about anything mapping, of course, over a coffee, beer, anytime. So anytime any folks are in Denver, please look me up. So quick overview who Wingtra is. I'll touch on this briefly. We are the world's leading VTOL fixed wing wide area mapping drone. VTOL meaning vertical takeoff and landing. We're based in Zurich, and you see 3 of our founders there that came out of the University of Zurich, which is a hotbed for drone mapping technology. We have a small office in Denver now, and we have basically our systems now in over 80 countries. So really quickly, of course, these are kind of basic questions. At the end of the day, GIS data is like lettuce; it can go bad quickly. So how is today, your local government, like a county or city, how are they refreshing their GIS data? There's the yearly aerial mapping programs that, are typically anywhere from 1 to 4 year rotations, depending on budgets. They can be anywhere from oblique data to orthos or both, LiDAR collections as well too. And typically, the RFP is released, or there occasionally is that sole source avenue that, an incumbent can get a sole source letter for speeding up the procurement process. But typically, of course, there's the RFP process. There's a team that assesses all proposals, the cost benefits, the biggest value in the history of the actual vendor as well too. So we all know that that process is pretty standard, which, a fixed wing manned aircraft, it could be several at one time, could collect an area anywhere from sub 6-inch data to 3-inch data to collect it for the organization, where the GIS enterprise then, of course, manages that data, which trickles down to certain city departments, other organizations within the GIS group. So of course, these are pretty basic. GIS data is the lifeblood of any GIS organization. I always say, for planning, infrastructure, asset management, emergency response, parks, recreation, tax assessment, of course, environmental assessment. So what we want to look at is basically the UAS, unmanned aerial systems data collection, 2021 and beyond. We're going to talk about some of the current limitations if any folks are on the call now that have drones or have their Part 107s, there's airspace we have to pay attention to. BB loss for beyond visual line of sight. Also, there's populated activity when I'm talking about buildings, populated areas, roads that you have to abide by those rules. The United States, of course, is a bit more stricter than other countries, of course. South America, it's kind of the wild, wild west when it comes to a lot of drone collections and so forth. But I'm a big advocate of the safety and the laws. The FAA is currently working out a lot of things, and the technology is there. It's just trying to catch the legal aspect of getting it to catch up. So we'll go on to the next slide here. Talk about mapping UAS capabilities today. So typically, a lot of folks on this call probably own some quadcopters, like an Autel or a DJI. The Wingtra is a fixed wing system, it's VTOL, so much bigger, can collect a lot more areas. Vertical takeoff and landing, you can take off and land in small areas as well. A lot of the flights today, autonomous flights, basically I'll show you how to map an area, and basically you have a checklist to go through and the system flies itself. My 6-year-old can actually flight plan on the Wingtra system. So it's pretty easy to use. We've tried to build a smart drone with some fail-safe features such as return to home and adaptive smart technologies. And also obstacle avoidance is also important as well. So these are today's, as of today, what we could potentially offer you to collect an area for local government. But of course, the laws can prevent us in certain areas. Ultra high resolution image collection, so sub-centimeter and LiDAR offerings that are currently on certain systems that allows you to collect extremely high detailed resolution from 400 feet. So a lot of folks say it's almost like Google Earth on steroids. You can collect the orthos and the obliques as well too. Accuracy down to 2 centimeters or less, depending on what kind of, if you have PPK or RTK or base stations used, and ground control as well too. There are some workflows that don't even need ground control to achieve these accuracies and so forth. And the key is that intuitive mission planning and data processing. So be able to basically, the data is what's the most important part. I had a guy the other day that says, I don't care if you're flying a drone with a flying bulldog on it that has 7 sensors. I just want the data and the analytics. That's the valuable part. So of course we all like flying drones. It's fun to be outside and so forth, but it is about the data. So the intuitive mission planning and the data processing, whether you're a processor with Drone Deploy, Pix4D, Bentley Context Capture, Trimble Info software and so forth, we want to be agnostic as well too, and whatever workflow you need to use. So the next slide here will cover advantages for future use by local governments. So we've done a couple business transactions with some counties and tax assessor groups here in the United States, but they're all for areas that weren't populated, or there are buildings being built with no population in them yet. So that we are, there's a lot of local government groups that are using drones right now. It's a very cost-effective way to update an organizational needs when there needs to be a data refresh. So for example, City of Denver may contract out every year to fly the city as itself, but it can become costly if they have to update certain areas. Maybe there's a building area that they like to call, basically collect. It can be very costly to call up the aerial contractor to go collect that data again. So it gives you those tools internally to say, hey, Dr. Steve and I are going to go map the water district area today and so forth, and get that data done and out the door in less than a few days and get finished products. So it gives the organizations that capability. Higher resolution, improved accuracy over traditional aerial fixed wing manned collections. For example, the Wingtra at 400 feet can collect a 1.5 centimeter resolution, and it's about a couple centimeter vertical accuracy and about a centimeter horizontal with no ground control. So things have made leaps and bounds over the last 5 to 7 years. Emergency response support efforts as well. So let's say there's a flood, a fire, severe weather. Of course, you need to bring a manned aircraft potentially to look at that. With drones, you can get them up in the air in less than 5 minutes, go collect the data and have decision-ready data ready to go, which you can go out and populate those emergency responders. Hands-on experience. I'll be honest, a lot of folks, it's quite invigorating to fly the drone and process the data yourself. So that's something that really gets people excited inside organizations, and they become champions of technology. Who doesn't want to be stimulated by flying it's a really cool piece of technology and collecting the data and see you create your own orthomosaics, point clouds, and contours. So that's a very exciting part. It never gets old for me to go out and fly a drone and collect data and create a nice mapping data set. Much quicker data collections when an organization owns their assets, so they don't have to call a contractor out there and so forth that says, hey, we can't get an aircraft there for another month or so. Other organizations are busy and vendors. So having those tools in-house, be able to collect their own assets when they want, and have that data is a very powerful feature as well. Rapid local processing for delivery to various local government agencies. So once you collect that data, you can collect, potentially, I know some customers collect 3,000 acres a day with the Wingtra. On a good day, they can go out and process that data in a few days and have that data ready to go. So typically, other fixed wing manned aircraft can take more than a couple of weeks to get the finished products. But with drone data, less than a week, very powerful computing if you have that, or using cloud processing as well. So it gives you that processing there at your fingertips. Next slide, we're going to go into some of the quickly here. Current limitations, of course. So I'm all about the right tool for the job. So if Dr. Steve calls up and says, hey, I want to fly all of LA County with a drone, I'm going to say, hey, that's not the right tool for it. Call Ecobee, do that. So of course, you can't fly a whole county with drones. It's just not enough horsepower. They can't collect that. You're not going to collect a large corridor as well with the drone. So there are certain times, of course, the fixed wing manned aircraft call them in to do the work. UAS mapping is not great, like I said, for large county or statewide collections. You can't fly BB loss for a lot of majority of customers. So BB loss beyond visual line of sight. So typically, I'm near side with glasses and contacts. I can see a Wingtra drone as large as the Wingtra, probably 1.5 miles to 2 miles out. So if we're flying beyond that, we have to set up a different camp and keep within that certain area. But there are certain instances you can get waivers to do that, in which the FAA is looking very hard at doing that, keeping on top of the whole drone legality and the rules and so forth. So almost a full-time job, but of course the FAA is there to keep us safe, keep other air traffic safe as well too. You can't easily fly over populated areas, buildings and roads. You see a lot of drone cowboys out there doing some interesting things. You see the data sets and you're like, well, did you get a waiver for that? And they kind of shake their head. But at the end of the day, it is harder to fly over populated areas. Of course, there are certain instances you can, if you want to get into that, reach out to me. Also, may not be as strong as fixed wing manned aircraft. Your sensors that are on your fixed wing manned aircraft, very powerful lasers. You can see beneath the trees. With a potential drone, your battery power is not as high, of course, not as much energy on the system, and you're not going to get as strong as laser. So your LiDAR data, it could be decent data, but it's not going to be as strong as potentially accurate coming from a fixed wing manned aircraft. So there are certain instances, of course, mapping. The mapping UAS does have its disadvantages as well too. But when these bullet points are solved and legally implemented, the UAS for local government will take off, no pun intended. So I see at some point every local government, city and county potentially having a UAS platform to collect mapping data for and populate throughout their organization. So it is coming. It is the future. Some of it's already here now, but it is the future, of course. And it actually complements and supplements the other technologies such as fixed wing, satellite, and so forth. So quickly, we'll just go over some payload options here. I'm going to mention for the Wingtra here, we have an oblique camera. We have one that's a 24 megapixel as well too. We have the Sony RXR2, which is a 42 megapixel at 400 feet, a 1.5 centimeter resolution. We also have multispectral sensors as well, the MicaSense, Red Edge, and the Ultim. So basically, those are used for vegetation mapping, any sort of vegetation health for NDVI index calculations. So a variety of payloads are available. These are available on the Wingtra. These can be available on potential quadcopters as well too. So a variety of those payloads are growing every day as well too. So even some quadcopters have LiDAR sensors and so forth to do small areas. So that's another potential capability. Thermal as well too. I'm going to show you a data set today. If you go to wingtra.com/Zurich, that we flew all of Zurich in about 6 hours with the Wingtra. The drone laws in Europe are much different. We actually got permission from the city of Zurich to do it. We made one pass and collected about a 2 to 3 centimeter resolution. I'll pull up that data set up here in a second. That it's pretty incredible to map all of Zurich in about 6 hours and process the data over 3 days and so forth. About 800, it's about 2,000 acres. So pretty impressive. So you can kind of see if that was put over the United States, Dr. Steve and I could probably take 2 or 3 Wingtras and fly all of Denver in 2 to 3 days. That's pretty impressive. At a 1.5 centimeter resolution and probably a couple centimeter accuracy, and that's obliques and orthos. So that potentially is in the future, but as of today, those laws aren't catching up. Couple snapshots of Zurich. We can quickly go through this. Now we're on to the highest precision RX1, R2, the 42 megapixel. So this is great for orthos, point clouds, contours, digital surface models, DTMs, you can get down to potentially a 0.7 centimeter resolution. So that's at a 42 megapixel at about 400 feet for that. The MicaSense Red Edge, I'll just quickly mention this. And these are sensors that are not only on the Wingtra, they're on other quadcopters as well too, other fixed wings. MicaSense Ultim's kind of the latest sensor that's been out from MicaSense. They've released another Red Edge system that kind of trumps this one, but this is the latest they had. It has a 5-band multispectral data and also has a 80 centimeter thermal band for a variety of applications. Let's say you're flying solar areas, might be kind of a coarse resolution, but as that resolution increases on the thermal, you can figure out which solar panels may have issues on those large solar farms. So quickly, I'm going to go into a demo mission of planning software called Wingtra Pilot. And basically, I'll show you really quickly how you can do a flight planning mission. So I'm going to reshare my screen here. So Steve, if you don't see Wingtra Hub on here, just let me know.
Will do. And you have about 5 minutes. So you know.
Okay. Well, excellent. So we'll quickly go through this. So I'm going to do a new flight plan. Steve, do you see the Wingtra Pilot?
Yeah, we see you.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to choose the 42 megapixel RX1 R2 camera. We're going to click next. We're just going to keep that name right there. I'm going to click next here. We're not going to import a KML. You can do that. So I have an area here. I've zoomed into San Diego. So we just have Bing Maps or Google Maps streaming behind this, but this is a flight planning software. I'm going to click plan here. I'm going to do a quick area. We can do corridors as well, but I'm just going to do a quick area. Zoom in here. Let's say we're going to fly this golf course in San Diego. So I'm just going to grab my mouse here and quickly flight plan this. As you can see how easy it is to do. I'm going to speed this up here since I only have a few minutes. We can quickly see there that we drew that. We're going to be at about 394 feet, and that'll generate a 0.6 inch ground sample distance. And that would be roughly about 350 acres in 52 minutes. We do have terrain following as well. So we pull up the terrain here. It's going to load the SRTM data set here in a second. Not just a 30 meter elevation posting there that basically the drone keeps constant altitude to do, keeps that pixel constant. The essence of time here, but it's loading there. It should be quicker than that, but it's a pretty flat area. And then if side overlap, front overlap, that's typically what you would process, for example, in Pix4D, that'd be 70%. You can change your flight direction as well. So let's say you have some cell towers on the north side you want to avoid your other infrastructure. You can plan this as well, and accordingly on your winds as well too. So we can actually type in, if we go down to 250 feet, you can see my resolution is going to actually go down to 0.4. It's going to be much more data. It's going to take it over an hour to fly that. That's going to be a 0.4 inch resolution. I think our SRTM data set is there now. So click on loading there. So it's pretty uneventful. You can see the drone's going to go 45 feet above its home point and drop 115 feet as well too. So once you have that saved out, I'm a GIS guy, so I'm always clicking save. Basically export that out to your tablet and your flight planning. And basically it flies the mission. You go through your 14 safety checklist and you're underway. Let the system fly. That's the boarding part. Comes back and lands. You grab the SD card out and then start doing your image processing. So pretty much a really quick crash course on Wingtra Pilot. And then I guess for an essence of time, let's maybe move into questions real quick.
Okay. We have a number of questions that have come in, so we'll just jump right in. Thanks, Trent. And I think now I have a new name around the county, thanks to you. So Dr. Steve seems to have already caught on in the side conversation. Does vertical takeoff and landing support, or is it planned to support the new Ultim PT?
Yes, it will.
Is asking. Okay, and maybe could you define some of that for our audience who may not be familiar?
I think they're referring to the new MicaSense product.
Okay.
Yes. So it's going to have enhanced thermal. It's also going to have higher resolution multispectral bands on it. I have not yet actually got my hands on it, so we'll probably have those at some point in 2022. But beyond that, it's basically an improvement to the Ultim going forward. And I think there's maybe an extra band on it. So I still have to do a little homework on it, but we do plan to support it.
Okay, very good. The next question from Daniel, does Wingtra do environmental or vegetation mapping contract work, or is that up to the client to do?
That is up to the client. We're strictly a UAS mapping manufacturer.
Okay. Um, and then Max asks, how low can these drones reasonably fly? I mean, obviously with safety and other considerations in mind.
Sure. I mean, some quadcopters, of course, depending on your airspace, I mean, you can fly a quadcopter at 100 feet or so. The Wingtra is designed, for example, it's a pixel vacuum. So as far as the fixed wing drones, it collects a lot of data, the world's leading data there. So we can fly. I mean, there are companies down in South America flying this guy above 5,000 feet. Some areas, because the laws are loose down there, of course. But typically the Wingtra is designed, you can't go below 172 feet based on the camera and some other physical technical limitations on that. But 172 is the lowest I've flown it. But typically, 200 feet, you can get about a 0.6 centimeter resolution from it.
Okay. And maybe a related thing, you showed how you have terrain following in there based on the StarTM data. Can a user plug in other higher quality data on terrain, like from a prior LiDAR flight, or can you account for other infrastructure and buildings in that terrain model?
Absolutely. Yeah, so by default, it's SRTM. I don't know if you can still see my screen, but there's the import button under elevation data. So you can bring in your own LiDAR DEM, the other optical DEM you've created, whether it be DSM or DTM. So yes, you can do that.
Okay, very good. And then Warren is asking or making a comment about Wingtra and a demo coming up on December 11th. I don't know if you're aware of that, Trent, or have any comments you can make to Warren's question or statement.
Yes, I believe there is. I think that's Warren from Rio Hondo College.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Hi, Warren.
Hey, Warren, how you doing? Yes, I have heard that. I don't think I'll be in attendance of that, but somebody else can enjoy the California sunshine.
Okay. So I think that's all the, oh, here, I just got another question. Are there consultants or providers that you as a company work with that you can recommend for use of your platforms and tools?
Absolutely, yes. So I've done work pretty much all of Canada, all of US. So I'd probably hook you up with somebody who's regionally has a potential Wingtra. So yes, of course, reach out to me. You can reach out to me, on LinkedIn or whatever. I can hook you up with a contractor potentially. Yes, of course.
Okay. And I know you touched on it a bit in the beginning. I think many people are familiar with the tradition, what I'll call the traditional quadcopters or multi-rotor drones. What are some of the benefits of your vertical takeoff and, combined with the way your vehicle flies as far as like flying time and acquisition efficiency,
Sure.
some of those things?
Yeah, no, it's a great Swiss design machine. The wing flies very efficiently. Once it gets up there, it's got a cruise speed about 36 miles an hour, so pretty fast. Only has 2 engines on it, so the engines actually don't move. A lot of people think they actually move, but actually it's just the aileron flap. So we designed it to minimize the number of moving parts. So it's pretty much a workhorse, so it lasts a long time. And the VTOL pretty much offers, it gets another, let's say a belly lander. The VTOL, you can take off and land in very small areas, about 4 square feet. You can protect the optics as well too, so you're not landing on the optics. And also number 3 is less wear and tear on the system. So once it gets up there, the boring part when it's mowing the grass, I always say. And of course, with drone flights, we want them to be boring. We don't want anything crazy to happen. So at the end of the day, we try to make a very smart drone. It has a lot of fail safes on it as well. So for example, it always leaves enough in the tank to fly home. So it's adaptive smart technology batteries. That's always doing heavy duty math to calculate that, hey, can I get home on this number of battery power? Of course, you haven't finished your project, you land, put another set of batteries in, go back up to where you left off. So what the Swiss have really focused on is reliability. They put a lot of money into the reliability of the system because, fixed wing manned aircraft, of course, very reliable. We'll go out and collect the data. The last thing you want is driving 3 hours out in the middle of nowhere and your drone fails. That's pretty much a whole wasted day. So we really try to focus on the reliability. That's a lot of companies have also tried to do.
Okay, well, very good. We are about out of time and we're out of questions. So I think that's a great place to again, thank you for the presentation. I think this is clearly an emerging technology where a lot of us are going to be collecting more project site specific data more frequently for a whole bunch of potential use cases. So I think that's a great, as you said, supplement to maybe our more traditional large area flights, like an entire county
Yep.
that you're going to use fixed wing
Absolutely.
or other sorts of data for. So with that, thank you to Trent and all of our speakers today. I always want to wrap up in the next couple of